MindSnacks, the podcast. 180 ways to see your world differently. Where science, psychology, and spirit stop arguing and start agreeing. No lectures, no preaching. Just one small idea at a time and the space to make it your own. Press play and let's see it differently.
You probably have, maybe 15 browser tabs open right now that you are never going to actually read.
Oh, at least 15.
Right. And you've got podcast episodes downloaded, articles saved to your phone, maybe even a stack of nonfiction books sitting on your nightstand just looking at you judgmentally.
Yeah, we all do it.
We do. We're basically hoarding information and mistaking the act of hitting, save for, the actual work of gaining wisdom.
Exactly. It's like we operate under this illusion that consumption equals comprehension.
Yes.
But passively absorbing thousands of words doesn't inherently change your perspective. I mean, true wisdom usually requires a pause, a moment of reflection, and our constant scrolling actively prevents that.
Which is exactly why we are doing things differently today. Welcome to episode 1 of the MindSnack podcast series.
Glad to be here.
We are starting a shared exploration of a book that genuinely tries to fix that gap between information and wisdom. It's called MindSnacks by Mehdi Bouchenak.
And just to be clear right off the bat, this series isn't going to be some dry academic lecture.
No, definitely not.
And it isn't an interview either. It's really an invitation to sit down and see if we can collectively shift the way we look at the world.
Today is essentially the front door. We want to introduce you to the architecture of the project, the person who designed it, and the underlying spirit of the book.
Yeah, the episodes ahead will explore these concepts heavily, but today is really about laying the foundation.
So the format of the book is really the first thing that threw me, in a good way.
Oh, sure.
It's a collection of 180 bite-sized insights. But when I say bite-sized, I mean each entry is capped at roughly 130 words.
Which is incredibly short.
It is. I have to admit, my initial thought was a little skeptical. I remember thinking, can you actually deliver a profound, life-altering insight in a single short paragraph? It felt almost, too brief.
That reaction makes total sense, especially because we are so conditioned to think that value requires volume.
Right, we expect a 300-page manifesto.
Exactly. But that brevity is actually the entire point. If you look at the cognitive science behind reading, a long, dense lecture forces your brain into this state of passive absorption.
Because you're just trying to keep up.
Right. You spend all your mental energy just trying to follow the author's complex framework. You basically become trapped in their rules.
You're just carrying their luggage, basically.
That's exactly it. But a 130-word constraint completely flips that dynamic. It lowers the cognitive load of absorption, which increases the space for personal reflection. The core philosophy here is about planting seeds, not, preaching a sermon. The book doesn't tell you what to think or give you some rigid 10-step morning routine.
Nobody needs another morning routine.
Right. It just offers a short prompt, a subtle shift in angle, and then it completely gets out of your way.
I noticed that physically, too. There are reflection canvases built right into the pages, literally blank space.
Yeah, the implication being that the book is incomplete.
Oh, interesting.
It's only finished when you, the reader, write yourself into it. You're required to become a co-author to actually get the value out of it.
And the number of insights, 180, is very deliberate, right?
Very.
It plays on the idea of a 180-degree shift. Because sometimes you don't need to learn a million new facts. You just need to turn around and look at the exact same problem from a completely opposite angle.
Yeah, and that shift in perspective isn't just a clever formatting trick. It's born directly out of lived experience.
Right.
To understand why this philosophy of resilience is so practical, we really need to look at how these ideas were forged.
Mehdi's own story.
Yes. So when he was 9 years old, his family relocated to France to escape the civil war in their birth country.
Wow.
And it wasn't this chaotic, tragic flight, but it was still a monumental shift for a kid.
A new language, a new culture.
Exactly. An entirely new system to navigate while just trying to rebuild a sense of place.
And during that super vulnerable period of trying to assimilate, a school principal actually sat his parents down.
Oh, this part.
Yeah, and informed them that Mehdi simply wasn't mentally fit or smart enough to pursue a normal academic pathway. The recommendation was that he should probably just aim for a basic trade.
Which is just a devastating thing for a child to absorb.
Seriously. Well, turns out the principal called that one spectacularly wrong.
Yeah, it's a bit.
But what really fascinates me is the behavioral response. Mehdi didn't rebel in some loud, destructive way. He used that doubt as quiet fuel.
Yeah, he leaned heavily into self-discipline and consistency.
He went on to navigate the French university system, built a highly successful corporate career, got married, had a daughter named Clara. By all outward metrics, he constructed a bulletproof life.
Until he hit 35.
Right.
The year 2015 became this massive turning point. Several foundational pillars of that bulletproof life shifted all at once. He went through a major career transition, the end of his marriage, and significant financial pressure.
It's the perfect storm.
It really is.
And what I appreciate about the book is that it doesn't pretend he just calmly breathed through it. His initial response was deeply messily human. He defaulted to blame.
Which is a classic psychological defense mechanism. When our reality fractures, our brains experience intense cognitive dissonance.
It's so painful.
Incredibly painful.
Yeah.
It hurts to accept that a life we built is falling apart, so our ego protects us by scanning the room for a target. It's just much easier to point a finger outward and say, you did this to me, than it is to sit in the discomfort of a collapsed reality.
Right, because playing the victim gives you this weird sense of control. If it's someone else's fault, you don't have to do the hard work of rebuilding.
Exactly.
But eventually the blame burned itself out. A quiet realization took hold that this season wasn't a tragedy that was happening to him. It was a turning point happening for him.
And that realization is really the genesis of the book's core metaphor. If we look at MindSnacks number 142, it explores this perfectly. The insight is titled The Puzzle of Life.
Oh, this one really stopped me in my tracks.
It's a great one.
It opens by paraphrasing that famous Steve Jobs concept, the idea that you can never connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward.
It is such a profound framing for anxiety. Think about how we approach a difficult season. Life essentially hands us a massive scattered puzzle, but somebody threw away the box.
We have no picture to guide us.
None.
So we panic. We pick up a piece like a failed relationship, a career setback, a random Tuesday. And because we can't see the full picture, the ambiguity becomes psychologically painful.
Oh, absolutely.
So what do? We lose our patience. We try to force pieces where they clearly don't belong just to make the chaos make sense in the present moment.
But if you look backward at Mehdi's life, the puzzle metaphor just crystallizes. The principal telling him he wasn't smart enough, the challenge of relocating as a child, the intense collapse of his career and marriage in 2015. At the time, those felt like jagged, ugly pieces that ruined the picture. He probably wanted to throw them away.
But without the principal's doubt, he never develops that fierce, quiet resilience. Without the collapse in 2015, the deep introspection that led to this book, a book written largely for his daughter, by the way, it never happens.
Right.
The jagged pieces were the exact ones required to complete the image.
The frame of our life takes shape through our vision and our beliefs, but the full image only reveals itself as we allow the pieces to connect organically over time, without forcing them.
I get the theory, but I kept wondering how he actually put it into practice.
What do you mean?
Well, it's very easy to say trust the puzzle when you are standing on the other side of a crisis. When you are sitting in the rubble of 2015, how do you practically stop yourself from forcing the pieces? Because it wasn't just like generic positive thinking that pulled him out of it.
No, not at all. It was a very deliberate, mechanical exploration of his own mind. The foundational tool he reached for was meditation.
Which I want to pause on because meditation often gets sold as this mystical, glowing cure-all. Like you just sit on a cushion and suddenly you're levitating above your problems.
And that trope is exactly what turns so many people away from the practice.
Right.
But the approach here was entirely functional. He wasn't trying to become a monk or achieve some elevated state of spiritual enlightenment. He was dealing with a nervous system flooded with cortisol.
He was in survival mode.
Exactly. He just needed a practical tool to lower the noise so he could think clearly for 10 minutes a day.
It was about training concentration, building a mental circuit breaker so his thoughts didn't automatically spiral into panic.
From that baseline of attentional control, his curiosity completely expanded. He began researching neuroscience, behavioral psychology, quantum physics, and even the law of attraction.
Okay, here is where I need you to break things down for me.
Sure.
Because when you put quantum physics and neuroscience in the same sentence as spirituality, it can sound a bit like word salad. People hear that and think, what does subatomic particle behavior have to do with my divorce?
That is a very fair question.
How does the book actually bridge these massive, seemingly disconnected fields?
It bridges them, by treating them not as competing worldviews, but as different vocabularies pointing at the exact same human mechanisms.
Okay.
Take neuroplasticity, for example. Hard science tells us that repeated thoughts literally wire new neural pathways in the brain. If you repeatedly focus on threat and blame, your amygdala grows more reactive. If you practice mindfulness, you strengthen the prefrontal cortex, which regulates emotion.
So the hard science is charting the physical hardware of the brain.
Yes. Now look at ancient spiritual traditions. For thousands of years, they have taught that where attention goes, energy flows.
Right.
They taught that detaching from angry thoughts brings peace. They didn't have fMRI machines to prove neuroplasticity, but they were observing the exact same phenomenon through the lens of human experience.
Wow, yeah.
And then quantum physics steps in to suggest that the observer actually influences the reality of the observed system. Hard science, soft science, and spirit are just different dialects.
It's like looking at the exact same mountain from 3 different base camps.
Oh, I love that.
Right. The physicist at Camp 1 is measuring the molecular density of the rock. The psychologist at Camp 2 is studying the mental endurance required to climb it. And the philosopher at Camp 3 is describing the transcendent awe of reaching the summit. They sound completely different, but they're all just describing the mountain.
That is a phenomenal analogy. And recognizing that shared destination is why the insights in the book feel so grounded. They aren't just fluffy self-help concepts. They are validated across multiple domains of human knowledge.
Yeah.
But understanding the science of the mind is totally useless if it doesn't help you process actual messy human pain.
Which brings us back to the blame he was wrestling with in 2015.
Exactly.
How do you take a deep understanding of neuroplasticity and apply it to the fact that you are angry at someone who hurt you?
That translation from theory to practice is beautifully captured in MindSnacks number 164. It explores a concept coined as freegiveness.
I have to say, the fusion of the words free and forgiveness into freegiveness is just brilliant wordplay.
It really is.
It immediately signals that there's a real thoughtful human behind the writing, not just some algorithm generating platitudes. But I'll play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
Isn't forgiveness, especially when someone has deeply wronged you, isn't it just letting them off the hook? How is it not just being a pushover?
That is the exact psychological trap the book dismantles. The insight opens by referencing the Buddha's teaching that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
It's a brutal image, but it's neurobiologically accurate. You're the one suffering the cortisol spikes while the other person is probably sleeping perfectly fine.
Exactly. The hostility of forgiveness, the reason we fight it so hard is because we operate under a false definition. We view forgiveness as a transaction.
We think it has to be earned.
Right. We believe we need an apology or that forgiving someone means officially validating their bad behavior. We hold on to grudges because the anger feels like power. Relinquishing it feels like surrender.
We think we're keeping them in a cage by being angry, but we're actually the ones sitting in the cell, letting them hold the key to our peace of mind.
Yes. But true forgiveness has absolutely nothing to do with the other person. It's an internal boundary.
Okay.
It doesn't mean what happened was okay, and it doesn't require reconciling with someone toxic. It simply means you're making a conscious decision to detach the emotional cord. You're refusing to drink the poison anymore.
Hence, forgiveness. The day you forgive is the day you earn back your freedom. It's a massive shifting perspective.
Totally.
You stop looking at forgiveness as a gift you reluctantly hand to the person who wronged you, and you realize it's a gift you are giving to your own nervous system.
And taking that first step doesn't require a dramatic confrontation. It just requires the internal recognition that your peace is more valuable than your indignation. That is the kind of seed this book is designed to plant. Small, quiet shifts that fundamentally alter how you interact with your own life.
It is incredibly potent. And those are just 2 examples out of 180. The sheer range of what's covered in this collection is vast.
Oh, yeah.
There is an insight exploring the trap of constantly expecting a brighter tomorrow. You know, how our obsession with the future robs us of the present. There's another dissecting the realization that real peace, rather than a constant state of fleeting excitement, is the actual foundation of lasting happiness.
It covers an immense amount of psychological ground, but it always returns to that central mission. Building a bridge between different ways of knowing and giving you the space to understand the mechanics of your own mind.
The episodes ahead are going to be such a fantastic journey. We'll be taking our time with these individual concepts, exploring that bridge between science and spirit, and really unpacking the tools it is going to be a rewarding conversation.
There is a lot of rich territory left to explore.
Before we leave you, if you could shift the way you see just one thing in your life this week, what would it be? We'll meet you in the next episode.
MindSnacks, the podcast. If something shifted the way you see things today, follow along. There's a new idea waiting in every episode. We'll see you in the next one.